Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It's been great to run through these sessions and have some fantastic engagement and fantastic speakers over the last 5-6 weeks now. We've been doing this. So today we've got Corey Nicholson from Access Integrated and Lorraine Morley from American Express, and we're looking at the different elements of what's in your database. How can you use that data analytics to create better messaging for for what you're doing to your audience and what you're sending out to your audience, but also looking at the how timely it is now to make sure you're getting the right messaging out to people. So it'd be great to hear from them in a moment, but also wanted to plug next week's session. So next week we have Sherry Keith from On24, which is a digital conferencing event platform. So really interested to see how her platform operates, how it can be utilized for people in the events and sponsorship space as you're looking at taking your events from live in person to virtual. So the elements for that, the registration for that's live on Eventbrite, and we'll send that out as well after the call today. But I wanted to let Corey and Lorraine introduce themselves. So Lorraine, ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Brad, for the continuous engagement and for the invitation to your coffee chat. My name is Lorraine Morley, and I'm a senior manager responsible for partnerships with American Express in our corporate card space. So as most people who be on the call would know, that we're a large global company focusing on merchant acquisition and acceptance, as well as our consumer base of card products. And then we have our separate division, which is commercial cards. And that is the business line that I'm in. And my key responsibility is a marketing role responsible for lead generation. So I'm the conduit between our high touch performance of doing business with associations and facilitating lead generation into our sales organization. I've been with American Express for 8 years, and I've worked in our merchant business previously, where I managed all of the processor relationships across Canada, and then completely pivoted. So I think when we're talking about pivots, I think I was at the forefront of pivoting, because I went from being a relationship manager into running a marketing business line with American Express. So thanks for having me on, and over to you, Corey.
Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Brad. Really appreciate you guys having me join this. I've tuned into a few of the webinars over the last few weeks, and I think they provide a lot of value. And it's great to just get everyone together and connect and learn things about different industries. So I'm the Vice President, Business Development at Access Integrated. We are a database marketing company located in Mississauga. We specialize in building and managing data-driven sales and marketing solutions for a wide range of clients in a wide range of industries. We do specialize in lead and customer nurturing. So really what happens next after teams like Lorraine's generate a lead. We specialize in managing and nurturing that lead to whatever the next step is, ultimately to making a sale or converting to a membership, that type of thing. I have been here 11 years. My responsibility is to find new clients, onboard new clients, and really help them take their data-driven sales and marketing initiatives to the next level. Given the wide range and the long roster of clients that we've got, we do have a lot of insights into what works and what doesn't. So I'm happy to be here talking about how to create standout brand messaging during this crazy pandemic that we're all trying to fight our way through right now.
Teach myself to turn off mute. Thanks, Corey. That was great summary. Thanks, Lorraine. It's great to have you guys here. And just a couple housekeeping things I forgot to introduce at the beginning. feel free to jump in the conversation at any time. You can turn off your mute and ask any questions through this. We're hoping to make it more conversational than the 100% presentation. And also you can jump in and ask questions through the chat, and I'll keep track of those and put them to Corey and Lorraine as we go. So Corey, I think you've got a bit of a summary of some of the activities that Access Integrated does. So I'll turn it over to you to walk us through.
Okay, great. Is my presentation visible?
It is now, yeah.
Okay, so kind of following up on the intro I just gave, our mission here is to utilize people and technology to simplify the jobs of our sales and marketing clientele by delivering a cutting-edge data-driven solution. Really what we mean by that is we're here to fill in the gaps when it comes to companies acquiring data, storing that data, utilizing that data to communicate. And when we speak about data, we're talking about leads, prospects, customers, and members. And when we talk about communicating, the various mediums that you can utilize to directly get a message in front of your database. Okay, so emails, direct mail, text messaging, push notifications, direct phone calls by a call center, those types of things. We do a lot here. We do everything from building the database, implementing a CRM, putting in place a marketing automation platform with pre-built drip or nurturing campaigns. We've got an e-commerce solution. We manage contests. There's lots of great things you can do with your data for your leads and your customers. When you're storing it properly, when you have access to it, and when you are analyzing the metrics of what you're doing, and using that to pivot, really. And everyone's using this term pivot during the pandemic, but really you should be analyzing your sales and marketing data always, and always using that data to pivot. It's just a little more enhanced right now. So our categories of services fall into the wheel that you see here. Building databases, building a data capture mechanism, whether it be online, in a store, or on social media, building custom applications to give access to sales or marketing teams, and then building reporting dashboards to help executives and marketing managers really answer the questions that they have about their data. We do have recommended software for CRM and marketing automation. We do a lot of email marketing, so advising our clients on how to communicate with their databases via email. We do everything from subject line advisory, content and imagery and photography, setup into email templates, structuring the timing and the frequency and the sending volume for our clients, and ultimately just helping them get their emails open, read, and actioned on, so driving them to a primary call to action. When it comes to e-commerce, we actually do the storage and the fulfillment of products purchased on an online store, driving more traffic back to that store via email marketing and the other mediums available to us. And we manage contests for our clients, because contests are such a great way to acquire new data, increase your subscriber lists, and then ultimately survey them, and then use the data that you've got to segment further so that you can send more personalized information to your clients based on what you've learned about them. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. Here is a snapshot of some of the companies that we're doing this type of work for. So you can see we're doing it for clients in many different industries. We've got a niche carved out in the franchising game, and then even deeper than that, the restaurant franchise game. We're doing some work for some educational facilities, some schools and childcare and daycare, some associations like the Canadian Franchise Association. We do lead generation program with Lorraine and her team over at AMEX. I've got clients in the travel industry, the auto industry, nonprofits, not-for-profits, agencies, consumer marketing, consumer products and services. So a lot of different industries that we're servicing, but the one commonality is we're managing data in some way, shape, or form, and then we're providing advice on how to communicate with the records that live in those databases. And I'll just leave it on this slide as we kind of continue the chat here, Brad.
Great, thanks, Corey. It was a really good overview. I think some of the interesting ones, just, everybody's looking at, what they've traditionally done and how they need to shift, and trying to avoid using the word pivot as everybody else is making that so consistent. But how's your work changed over the last 5-6 weeks with all this shift in conversation and what organizations and brands are looking to do?
So our organization itself, we were able to shift quite quickly. We're a relatively small team of about 20 people. We were able to quickly have our team work from home, with the exception of our fulfillment team. So because we're involved in direct mail for a marketing and e-commerce purpose, we ensured that our team was safe here to come in periodically, not every day, but every other day, to handle what needs to be picked and packed and sent out for our clients, because we do support companies who send an essential service via e-commerce. So we enabled them to be coming to the office, the rest of our team working from home, and it was actually quite seamless. So, morning phone calls, project status update calls throughout the day, and it's been pretty seamless that way. In terms of the shift and the change to our business as a reflection of our clients' business, it's kind of been across the board. So we have some clients who saw a drastic decrease in their sales and their marketing efforts. We saw widespread layoffs from some of our clients' marketing departments, really affecting the projects we had going on with them, and some of them just outright ending them. For example, our clients in the travel industry, our clients in the education industry, some of them, had to stop their efforts, and some were able to adapt quickly and move their classrooms online and their efforts online. Our clients in the auto industry stopped marketing, so those projects ended with us. And then we have clients in the home services industry, so like home inspection and home painting, and obviously, their contractors unable to get into people's homes. So really their efforts ended. So that's on the more unfortunate end of things. I have some clients who saw an increase in their business as a result of this pandemic. So I've got clients in the pet food industry and consumer food industry who, are an essential product. And with all the hoarding that was going on, especially in the beginning, they saw, triple, quadruple the sales that they would normally see, in March and April. So, some people, not saying they took advantage, but they definitely saw a benefit to what has happened. And then, I have some clients who, associations who, not negative, not positive, but saw a change in their business, and a really positive shift I saw. So for example, the Canadian Franchise Association shifted to everything online, their entire team working from home, and providing very valuable resources to all of their members, which are franchisors and industry suppliers, on a daily basis, with very valuable webinars such like this, and email content being sent out almost daily to their entire database with relevant and valuable information. So helping people to cope, helping people to adapt as well, and helping people to really just to change their business efforts to get through this pandemic. So we've been there assisting them with managing that data and providing advice on how to analyze it and kind of move day to day and what to do with the metrics they're gaining on their data.
Yeah, and from what I understand of what you do, you're also looking at the effectiveness of content. Because I can think of a number of email distributions I'm on where the messaging hasn't changed from pre-pandemic to during pandemic, and I don't know about the efficacy of sending out the same message throughout all of this. It just kind of, in some ways, feels like it might be the wrong tone, the wrong messaging. Are you helping people sort of manage that and reposition what they're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And you really can't be too careful with your messaging and how you change your messaging during this time. So yes, we've been providing that type of advice. What I like to tell my clients is to act as a not-for-profit during this time. The majority of my clients are trying to sell something, right? They're trying to guide some call to action, whether it's purchasing online, purchasing in store, or getting prepared to make a large ticket purchase. It's not the time to be salesy. It is the time to be supportive. And we're having our clients change their messaging so that their leads and their customers are still aware of what they're doing, but it's really how they can support them during this time. It's not a time to be greedy. It's not a time to push a message and say, we are essential, you need us, continue to buy us. People know what's essential to them. They know what they need. You don't have to push that message on them. So take the approach of a not-for-profit, right? It's very non-salesy by nature, and that's the type of advice I've been providing.
And have you seen any campaigns that have been, worked out really well, or some that just really kind of, had some pitfalls or mistakes through it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot because of what I do. I see what our clients have done, and I subscribe to a whole lot of things myself personally. I saw a lot of copycatting going on. So companies copying what other companies were doing. And then I saw this strange phenomenon. It almost was like a FOMO effect of messaging going out, and then companies all jumping on board. And I think CEOs and marketing managers and sales directors all thinking that they had to say something about the virus. And that became the goal, like get a message out ASAP. Our customers, our leads, they need to know our stance on this. And I think the mistake that was made was all so similar, right? We all saw it. We all had our inboxes flooded with every company we ever subscribed to or bought something from telling us how they were cleaning their offices, cleaning their showroom, or how they were keeping their staff safe. And to me, a lot of that is business as usual. Like, I really do hope you're always keeping your staff safe and keeping your facilities clean. The primary mistake there is you're not providing any new information. There's nothing of a value add, right? So the advice I'm giving is, sure, you can say that stuff, but make sure you're also including something valuable to them, something that's new and interesting and relevant, or how you can support them differently during this time. The other mistake I saw was companies sending out messaging to people who had unsubscribed previously because they weren't doing the proper segmentation. If somebody had unsubscribed before, you can't just add them back to your list because the virus is happening now, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into any company. I'm not going to center out any companies right now, but yeah, I saw a lot of mistakes happening.
Lorraine, how's business changed for you through this? Are you operating in the same way? Have you had big shifts? What's that look like?
Yeah, so from a company perspective, very early on, our CEO made a very bold statement to say that no American Express employee would lose their job in 2020 as a result of the global pandemic. So when you talk about, pivoting and shifting and all of these things that are happening, the fact that our tagline to the street is the powerful backing, we as colleagues of American Express from the very onset felt the powerful backing of the organization that we worked for. So as we all, in our own individual business lines, we're figuring out, what do we do next? What's the right approach? What is the, plan for the current state? And also coming out of this, how do we manage this? It was almost that little bit of a comfort to know that you can continue to work. We won't be impacted in that way. So we're very proud of the brand that we are and that we work for. And then from what is being communicated out to our customers is really the focus on them. So I work in an acquisition channel, and basically 90% of all acquisition has completely stopped for our corporate card business. The focus is completely on the customer. It's on relief programs. Now you're starting probably to see a little bit of the emergence of the Shop Small initiative and the stay home component. So very early on, there was no social media posts coming out from American Express. So anybody who may have been following us on Instagram or any social media, any media like television, all of that had been completely paused because we needed to ensure that while we were figuring out this for ourselves as an organization, our focus was completely on our customers. So any digital messaging that was coming out was all completely customer focused. And I know specifically in the business line that I work in, even to the point where our salespeople are now managing accounts. So we're making sure that anybody that we do business with is getting contact from us and making sure that if there's anything that we can do to help them, that is an option for them as well.
And I know from the work that you and I have done separately from this conversation, that you've got a real live in-person focus for a lot of your engagement and business drivers. So how have you moved to digital? How have you used other avenues?
Yeah, so one of the components of the work that I was doing is it's called a B2B strategic partnership, where we work directly with associations and franchises to introduce them to the working capital solutions that American Express has. And so one of the biggest emerging areas for us was being present at trade shows and speaking opportunities. So I can give you an example of how we started to pivot very early on. We had sponsored a trade show in Edmonton, and American Express had come out to say that we were not permitted to participate in gatherings of 25 people or more. And that was, I think, March the 1st or March the 2nd. And we had a trade show on March the 3rd with a keynote address. So we were able to video message and submit that into the organization that we were partnering with. So that was one kind of example. And the other piece of it is now we have, to a certain degree, done some digital activations with some of the partners that we work with. And it's an example of how we work with Access Integrated. So we're now dialing up those verticalized e-blasts that we are able to work with our partners to send out, so that they still know that American Express and these are the options that you have. But that would be, one of the examples where we're doing customized by certain types of businesses that we can virtually send them out, and that we can, as we start to move forward, get any lead generation opportunities working again. But again, there's a real sensitivity into the how and the why, and we're also seeing some progress from an acquisition perspective with e-commerce businesses. So what everyone else is probably seeing, that we're actually seeing an emerging trend with a lot of businesses going online. So being able to work with associations that can benefit in that way as well.
And do you find that, are you utilizing tools like Corey's tools when it comes to working with your partners? So associations that you might be supporting, are you able to leverage these analytics alongside your partnerships?
Yeah, we do for sure. And I think, from a setup perspective, we take care of everything. So it was that end-to-end solution that we, American Express, could add as a value opportunity. So rather than, relying on them to, go through their websites or their CRM tools, we manage that end-to-end process by leveraging the product and tool that we have in place with the partnership that we have with Access Integrated.
And Corey, you mentioned earlier you have a pick and pack element of your business. So do you work with live in-hand activations as well as digital, and coordinate those two?
Yeah, we do. So I have a team that builds online stores for our clients that want to sell a product and send it out via mail. And then, yeah, I have a team in the warehouse who does pick and pack. So as orders are made on the e-com store, we receive it in real time and we send it out nationwide. The way we've integrated it with digital is I make introductions and recommendations to partners who do social advertising to drive traffic to that store. We do integrate those stores with Amazon and eBay and different other venues to sell online. And then email marketing, we always do and advise on how to nurture the customers that have made a purchase or subscribed, drive them back to the site to make more purchases, right? And we encourage subscription programs and that type of thing. But I think what a good segue is into the email marketing, right? Because often I am recommending email marketing because of it, the high degree of segmentation you can do versus, you know, sending out a message on another platform. And when it comes to deciding on how you want to get a message out to your database, especially during what's going on right now, you have to determine, like, do you want to use email or is there another way to do it, right? Because you could tweet it out, you could post an Instagram, you could put it on Facebook or write a blog or put it on your website. Or many companies now have their own apps, right? You can do an in-app message that somebody's going to see when they open your app. Once you've determined that email is the right way to get this message out, you need to figure out, okay, what is that message going to be and how am I going to segment my database to make sure that message is personalized to who I'm sending it to. And that's why I've got that quote on the presentation there. Personalization is not about your customer's first name. It's about relevant, timely, and useful content. Relating that back to e-commerce, you know a lot about a person's purchasing behavior pre-COVID and even post-COVID. You know what they buy, you know the categories of products, the timing of those purchases, and how often they make reorders. Take advantage of that data when you're sending them emails. Don't just send the same message as a blast to your entire database because it's not going to be relevant to every single one of them, right? Personalization is about everything you've learned about your leads and customers over time. It's not just what you've asked them when you had them subscribe or make a purchase.
And do you coordinate with other activities, you know, with the social campaigns or with marketing or programmatic spends?
We do. We'll collaborate with the partners that, you know, manage the content calendars for what's going out on social, right? And then my team here will work with them on imagery and kind of making the messaging complementary that we're sending out via email.
And I know you were saying, you know, just that whole personalization element. I know I've been guilty of it. Probably everybody on the call has been guilty of it, where you just, I need to get the message out and you send it to your whole database. So how easy is it to say, okay, you know, here's this segment that's going to be interested in X relative to this event or activity, and here's the audience who's going to be interested in something else within it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy because there's some heavy lifting up front. You need to ensure that your database is built properly to store the criteria that you want to use to segment your database moving forward. So I realize a lot of companies are just thinking about it now. And it's harder to react on the fly when you want to get into deep segmentation. But if you can use this downtime to think about how you need to segment your database now so that moving forward, you're not making the same types of mistakes. And that's where we come in, right? So we'll provide consultation on how to build the database properly so that you're storing these fields and this data that you have on people so that you can utilize it for personalized messaging moving forward.
And I think for a lot of people in a lot of marketing teams, this is something that operates on the corner of their desk and maybe the corner of their desk. So it's just how much time do they need to invest to make this work?
You know, a series of meetings, right? So, you know, you sit down with your team and you figure out, okay, what's your high level strategy? And then you loop in a partner like us and we're going to provide some advice on how to refine that, right? And then beyond that, there's going to be some work that goes into it. You might need to change what you're asking on your your e-com order form or on your subscription form. And then you need to kind of change how you are storing data as people interact with your brand and engage with your sales and marketing teams moving forward. Right? You need to ensure that you are collecting data, but you're not just collecting data just to collect data, right? And I see a lot of that happening too, a lot of investment being made in building these databases to store all kinds of wonderful things, but it never gets utilized. It becomes a wasted effort. When you are building a database to store things and you've got it, make sure you're analyzing it, and then make sure you're utilizing the analytics that you've gathered, right? And that's how you're truly taking advantage of the investment of time and money that your teams have put into getting your database up to par for sales and marketing at the next level.
And Lorraine, as a user of this, I mean, how easy is it for you to analyze the data that's coming back and make those shifts?
Yeah, I think it's to what Corey had talked about is the upfront piece of it, which for us is, what criteria is most important to us to capture, so that we can, for our purposes, which is, lead generation, making sure that we're capturing the information that we need. And one of the fields for us that's important is, say, like a revenue stream. But the other part of it, through the tool that we use, we can customize the logic that we need. So specifically to, if we wanted to do a specific lead to a certain person, all of that infrastructure is all being built. And if we want to change it, working with a company like Access has been fantastic because they are very agile as well. So, just say today we say, no, we don't want to do it to this team. We want to do it, over here. Then we work with the team and we can move that along very quickly. So I think the most important part for us is that analysis up front to get the criteria that you need built. And then for us, really, the proof in the pudding is the results of the leads that are coming through. So the efficiency of how quickly they can come through when they get populated into our CRM tool, and the efficiency in that way means that our sales teams are motivated to work those leads really quickly because they know all of the criteria that we need. It has been decided up front, and if there is a change that we need to make along the way, that we can work back with Access very quickly. And in the end, the analytics for us comes with the results and the charge volume on the card that we get as a result of that as well.
Great. And I know from the property view, looking at tools to make it easier for sponsor recognition, looking at shifting some of the benefits that sponsors have received from, the ongoing activities of an organization that just can't happen right now. Corey, how easy is it to drop in, sponsor placement or sponsor content and then be able to track the effectiveness and show ROI on what I would send out as a property back to my partners?
Yeah, I think partnerships and collaborations and sponsorships, it's a great time for that right now. It's easy enough to, let's say, jump into an email template after getting approval and kind of collaborating with your sponsor on what the messaging is going to be, to drop in that new imagery and that new messaging and take advantage of your sponsor, your new partner's subscriber database, right? So now you're combining efforts and you're sending out this message to potentially twice as large of a list, right? It's easy enough, like I say, to jump in on the fly, change up that messaging, and then now you've provided the opportunity for each one of these organizations to grow their subscriber list and ultimately their sales and marketing efforts. So I think it's a great time for sponsorships and partnerships like that, as long as we're being mindful of the pandemic and sensitive to what people are going through. So you're not pushing something on everybody. You are ensuring to provide relevant, timely, and useful content. You're being empathetic and supportive. I've seen a lot of companies, for example, that have partnered with or got sponsorships from associations or organizations that are doing doing very well in helping people in need right now, helping healthcare workers, helping the hungry, right? It's a great time to get that message out. Decide on the right medium to get that message out, whether it's a social post or an email blast. You want to ensure that you're not coming off as doing it just for the PR, for the marketing. But if you are doing something great, sure, make sure that people know about it, and that you are taking advantage of your sponsor, your new partner's reputation to help build your own during this time.
And how easy is it to handle the CASL and GDRP compliant elements?
Well, it's very easy when you're using the right technology. So we use a software that ensures a one-click unsubscribe, and that is stored in the database. And when you continue using that tool, somebody who's unsubscribed is not going to receive a future communication from you. When you are, let's say you're still using Outlook to do all your email blasts, or very kind of archaic email deployment tools, it's a little more difficult because it's a very manual effort and mistakes can too easily be made. So there's lots of great technology out there, and we provide advice on what to use that are going to ensure you're CASL compliant here in Canada, you're CAN-SPAM compliant in the US, your GDPR for Europe. It just comes down to using the right technology.
And then how easy is it to shift the data that you've got into other elements of the individual's business?
Meaning what?
Does the data and the analysis rest with you, or does it rest with the organization?
That's always a collaborative effort, right? So we'll show clients what to look at, right? So you're looking at opens, you're looking at clicks, you're looking at unsubscribes, for example, at a high level if you're talking about an email marketing campaign. But that data is so variable and it can change based on really any factor, right? Like if you send that email to one segment of your database in the morning versus in the evening, it might give you different results, especially now when everyone's schedules are changed and everyone's at home, right? So it's really about knowing how to look at the metrics that you're gathering, and that comes with advice and experience and relating it to other companies in the same industry or even companies outside of that industry, and knowing how to analyze it. Brands and companies will always know what they're selling and marketing the best, but when it comes to looking at the metrics of it, you often need outside advice, right? So that's why I say it's a collaborative effort. You get various parties at the table, your creative agency, your data management agency, your strategy agency, and then your sales and marketing departments.
And do you do a mix of assessment from brand awareness and engagement, or do you strictly look at it from the engagement standpoint?
Mostly from an engagement standpoint, but we're always looking at it from the perspective of what have we learned and how can we take what we've learned now to improve what we're going to do next week, next month, next quarter. The recommendations I'm providing to my clients right now is don't assume that the data you're collecting during this pandemic, which we all don't know when it's going to end, will be indicative of what's going to happen after the pandemic. You have to keep this data separately and treat it separately. Don't assume that once we go to this new normal that everyone's talking about, that the data that you acquire right now will apply.
Sure. Brian, you've got a question. Do you want to jump on and ask it, or do you want me to ask it for you?
You.
All right, I guess it is me. So this is for you, Lorraine. For your B2B acquisition plans, do you rely more on prospecting or audience modeling on current customers to acquire more customers?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of a mix of the two. Historically, it's always been on prospecting and trends, and really the emphasis for us has always been on supplier acceptance. So in our space, in that B2B world, it's how open is a merchant to accepting our card. And so we basically build a strategy on certain businesses that we have a lot of success in. For example, construction is a really big B2B partner in the vertical for us. So we work with a lot of general contractors, small businesses across Canada, because we know we have a lot of supplier enablement of accepting our card with a lot of those businesses. So we do use a hybrid of both. So we build campaigns in B2B based on AI and modeling of small businesses. And also then in my world, it's more high touch, where it's working specifically with the sales organization, identifying key verticals that we can apply our B2B plans to, where we market to them, like the trade shows, e-blasts, things like that.
And the second part of his question, if it's modeling outside of Facebook, what other platforms would you use to facilitate that?
So we have a global prospect database that we have, 2 different tools that we have globally, and then we slice and dice the data by market, by segment, and then by the type of client or prospect that they are. If they're a small business, also if we know the revenue size of their businesses as well, helps us to build out some of the modeling criteria.
Great, thanks for that. Yeah, and I think looking at sort of the now and the planning forward, Lorraine, how are you looking at how you're dealing things now, and what you're planning for post-pandemic, or whatever the new world looks like?
I think measured is probably a good word that I would use, because we still are doing business. We are still acquiring new business. As everyone knows, there's certain segments that are still open. For example, in Ontario, all of the road infrastructure is still all there. So, people are still buying asphalt to put down on the roads and things like that. So there's definitely the kind of short term, which was, pause on acquisition and apply where necessary. But coming to the forefront now is basically pipelining. So it's building the pipeline of opportunities that we can currently work on and what we're going to do coming out of this. I think part of it is it also gives us a chance to pause and to really identify, what do we want to focus on coming out of this? What I think has been amazing during the pandemic is the amount of support, the real awareness for people from a charitable perspective, and just seeing, how much more would we, want to benefit coming out of this. Even, for example, like with our membership rewards points, our points are flexible, so it's not specifically tied to a travel program. So anybody who still has one of our cards and is still using it actively, there still is the opportunity to buy gift cards or, use it for whatever purchase. One of the things for us coming out of this too is that maybe people want to assign their points to a charitable organization. So some of those kind of initiatives are happening behind the scenes. It's almost like your chance to think, okay, what can we do better coming out of this? And and one of the other parts of it is like the agility on it. We've changed our acquisition timeline from being 3 months to get our bonus offer to 6 months, so that it gives people a little bit more time, and also the promise of coming out of this, hopefully in the next 6 months, that they're going to meet that target and they're going to be able to get that bonus. So things like that, where to us, it's really the pipelining of the opportunity and then opening up in a meaningful way, completely coming out of this. But we are very mindful of our existing customers, supporting them whatever way we can in the short term, and knowing when to press, the foot on the gas again with all of our acquisition efforts.
And then with your sponsoring partners that you're working with, or sponsored partners you're working with, I know organizationally, like many other companies, there was a big pause put on, and then it was slowly maneuvering to see what that new world looks like. But what looks successful for you in terms of the partnerships moving forward?
Yeah, so I think part of it was the messaging. So up front, it was like making sure that you had the sensitivity factor fully at the forefront. And then for us coming out of it, it's also getting the insights. So before we, go and full throttle with anything, it's coming back to our partners and saying, like, what are the learnings in this time frame? Like, what's going to resonate with the audience coming out of this? And then also from an engagement standpoint, what does engagement look like coming out of this? Because the probability is we probably won't see a trade show happening probably for really a year, or unless there's a vaccine. So it's working through kind of that engagement piece. And so I think a great example is the coffee chat that we're all participating in right now, where we can, keep meaningful dialogue going. We're learning about different types of businesses. And the content piece is being driven in a way that's going to be meaningful and effective going forward as well.
Great. And then, similar question to what I had posed to Lorraine, to you, Corey, is, what should the, brands and organizations on the call, what should they be doing now in the sort of the near term, and how should they be planning for coming out of this as well?
I think right now, if there's downtime for sales and marketing departments, they should be utilizing that time to investigate new technologies, new partnerships, new ways of doing what they do, but just doing it better. Because I know there is a lot of free time for some sales and marketing folks right now. So if you spend the time now to investigate and then potentially implement something, you're going to come out of this in a better place. I think during times like this is when a lot of smart companies and great teams will creatively innovate to be able to make their way through the pandemic. But this innovation will not stop, right? They will have come up with something new and interesting, a new way of doing business or a new revenue stream that makes sense to continue on afterwards. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see lazy sales and marketing teams who aren't using their time wisely and not pivoting or adapting in the right way, who will fall behind, right? Who you're going to see a lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted salaries during this time, and it'll show afterwards. The one metric that I recommend all teams look at right now is not how you can increase sales, how you can increase subscribers or impressions. Sure, that's ultimately what you want, but I think sensitive brands, supportive brands, right now you're looking at how many people can I help, right? How many of my customers can I help on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis as we go through this? And people will recognize it. People will gain trust and just become closer to your brand. And as a result of that, you'll see the metrics you want to see, and it'll carry on afterwards, right? So it comes back to what Lorraine talked about. It's that sensitivity and it's that supportiveness, right? And in doing so, there's ways to do it creatively, and there's ways that your brand or your company is gonna benefit from it in the end.
Yeah, and definitely see as you were saying, people jumping in when everything first happened and just said, okay, we need to get messaging out, and that whole copycat element of there was a lot of we're here for you, and it wasn't necessarily tied to anything other than just to say we exist and we're surviving through this, and I've definitely seen it, and I think from the conversation here that you're starting to see that shift to it's not we're here for you anymore. It's we're here to help, and here's how we're helping. So I think being able to have that communication out would be fantastic, because looking at 2003 coming out of SARS, and 2008, 2009 coming out of the big crash, I look at so many organizations who watched that period come through, and they just tried doing the same old, and I don't know how successful that was. I know a number of organizations, particularly coming out of SARS, who did some really amazing investment into this is how things are going to look new and different, and how we're going to be positioned differently in the market, and saw some great growth as a result of that. So it'd be fantastic if you're able to assist some people being creative and start putting those plans together.
Yeah, here's one simple thing you can try. Don't send your marketing messages from marketing at or sales at or info at or no reply at. Send it from, the sales director's email address, directly from the CEO or president. This is the time to actually listen to your customers, right? You're all saying, we're here to help, but actually give your customer the opportunity to reply. Instead of we're here to help, ask them how you can help, survey them, give them the opportunity to actually communicate with the executives at their company. And then take what you learn from those surveys or from those replies and actually action it, right? Now's the time to create that connection.
Yeah, and I think it's the time for innovation. It's the time for creativity. That's going to facilitate that success. And I don't think being innovative necessarily means wholesale shifts to your organization. It can be small tweaks that can really drive that. And I imagine just from the data analytics that you've got and you can provide people, just being able to say, okay, it's not a one size fits all communication going out to people. That can make such a huge difference. Lorraine, any last thoughts from your end about just how that's worked for you?
Yeah, and I think, just from an internal perspective, we're a really big company, but we operate, quite small. And one of the great parts of it for us coming out of this is that we internally are so connected. Our sales organization does like a virtual virtuoso call every week. And so this is a call to action for all of the people to pull together information, share some best practices, some of the things that they're finding as well. So it's really a collaborative effort of all of the people, and it's not just down to a CEO or to a director. It's down to the people that are constantly in contact, who are taking their marching orders of being sensitive and to uncover little pockets of opportunity. But it's also the feedback loop that's going to help us coming out of this as well, to say that these are some of the things that we've done really well. And I think that having highly motivated people who are still employed and are want to see the business succeed and want to see themselves succeed, those are the people who are going to win in these situations as well, because they're not at home worrying about the fear factor. They're making calls, they're contacting people, they're getting insights that are going to help themselves and they're going to help others. So it's the feedback loop is definitely a responsibility of everybody, and making sure that you're collecting that and that you're using those insights, whether they come from your digital engagement strategies or actually just picking up the phone and speaking to people.
Great. Well, thank you both for your time today. Thanks everybody for joining the call. I will give a particular thank you to Lorraine, because the whole concept of the virtual coffee chats came from a conversation with her. So it's been great to be able to put this into being, and for all the engagement we've had with just a great number of people across the country, into the US and beyond. So thank you.